So my building was starting to fall apart. That's when I realized, why do we have these two properties? They're right down the street from each other and they're not sharing resources. Why don't we combine the two? And I fought and I fought and we were able to combine the two. And then it opened up so many more possibilities. It's a miss if you're not combining properties together.
Yeah, I wanted to start by Josh by giving you the floor. I'm not sure if you all know each other, but just quick intro. Quick intro.
My name is Josh Hayes. I'm the regional maintenance director for Widener, and I oversee our Oklahoma and Arkansas portfolio. So it's about 26 properties, 9,700 units. Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and then we're in Northwest Arkansas as well. I actually just celebrated 20 years in the business about a week ago. So started as a groundskeeper and just kind of worked my way up, through the ranks and through Colorado Springs and North Dakota and Oklahoma. And I've had the pleasure of doing a whole bunch of fun properties, new builds, renovations, and now where I'm at. And now we're in the process of changing the way we do maintenance. So I've been on the forefront of that for our company. So that has been a fun challenge to say the least. So.
Well, congratulations on 20 years, sir. That's a good round number, solid number. Jason. Are you muted?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes.
Sorry about that technology issues. That's weird. My name is Jason Fein. I'm the vice president of maintenance for Dominium, and I just started up a asset tracking platform as well. So I'm trying to start my own business. So I'm pretty excited about that one. Just got it launched, and we got through the testing. We're in production now, and now we're trying to get some customers. So it's been a fun adventure, just like you, Adrian, take these steps and you try to branch out on your own and start something cool. So hopefully it blows up. But I've been in the business for 25 years and had the opportunity to start off as a maintenance tech and grew in the industry. And so I was on the capital team. I did rehabs for a while with Equity Residential and Camden just recently, and now I'm here. So I'm excited to talk to you guys.
Well, congratulations on a new gig. Congratulations on on your new business. That's super exciting right there. James.
Nice to meet you guys. I'm James Ohrn. We're called Area Maintenance Managers at Avenue 5. I'm stationed in Seattle, Washington. Help oversee our portfolio we have 110 properties, give or take, on a daily basis in the area from Olympia to Everett out onto the peninsula. I oversee about 40 plus properties in the downtown Seattle sector. So mostly mid-rise, high-rise stuff. Been in the industry about 10 years and yeah, excited to be here. Love learning from people.
Nice meeting you.
I think we have Scott that's trying to join us. I just accepted him in a room. He might be. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Adrian. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. How's it going?
Not too bad. Sorry for being late. I'm packing up the truck and I'm heading out to the Berkshires to see James Taylor.
Awesome. You're earlier than 50 other people because we have a smaller group today, but it's how that goes. It's small and mighty, right?
Sure thing.
If it's important, you show up. It's it's great to have a lot of people, but also there's a lot of value into a smaller group because we could cover more ground that way. So we're just kind of going around the virtual table and make introductions. You probably all know me, Adrian Danila, 21 years in the industry, currently working as a consultant for the industry, and this is one of the projects that I'm very passionate about. Keeping this, leadership group together and hopefully growing it so we could all have a voice, and our voices and our, decades of expertise and, hundreds or thousands of years, over 1,000 years of expertise put together could drive change in the industry. That's, is needed. It's desperately needed. I think that's one of the main reasons why we're here today. We're all together. So with that being said, Scott, would you take a few minutes to introduce yourself to the
Sure
team.
thing, Adrian. Thank you. My name is Scott Ployer. I am the president and CEO of National Property Management Strategies Group. It is a specialty consultancy that I launched in the summer of 2019 when I decided to leave corporate America and not work solely for one company, which was fine for 33 and a half years. But I realized that I had something else to offer to other people. So I set up the company and we've grown year over year ever since. I've had the privilege of meeting Adrian and recently at the NAA event. Other than that, it was all virtual. And I'm just happy to be here. I am a strong proponent and advocate for training. It's one of the things that I do in my business. Is I provide facilities and maintenance and safety training, as well as other professional development trainings, based on my 38 years in the industry at this point. So happy to be here. Happy to work with all of you. And for those that aren't on today as well, it's usually another few rows of people there. But as Adrian said, small but mighty.
Thank you, Scott. Josh and I were, kind of exchanging messages behind the scenes. And Josh, I know that, maybe you expect to have some heads up or some preparation, but I know that you have some questions on some topics that you're passionate about and you would like some feedback on. I like to just kind of go around the room and each one of you could start with a topic that you're passionate about. And we go around the room and we all kind of say what just provide feedback on personal experiences of what we're hearing, what some trends are in the market. So I'm gonna give you the floor, Josh, to talk about the topic that you were messaging with me back and forth.
Oh, you did.
I missed the last meeting. I think kind of reading through the transcript and stuff and just seeing where the topic kind of went. It seemed like the last meeting had to do with dispatch maintenance or pod maintenance. And I was just, Widener as a company, we, started that pilot a year ago and we're slowly rolling it out to our other regions. And so I thought it would be kind of interesting to get other companies around that potentially have rolled into dispatch maintenance or pod maintenance to see what were some of their struggles. So then that way, I can have ideas of what you guys did to get through those struggles, or I might have ideas to get through those struggles just to make it easier on everybody. Because I know, we're kind of competitors, just like that, with different, management companies, owners like that. But still, at the end of the day, we're a big community, and I think we can lean on each other for information. And why should one of us be trying to go battle uphill to fix something when there's, with all the knowledge that we have in these rooms, somebody's probably went through those issues. So why not trying to help each other out to see how we can get through those struggles and those dark times and stuff. So for me right now, the dispatch pod maintenance is kind of my biggest plan that I'm trying to get figured out and ironed out and see how we can roll it out company wide. So
as far as pod maintenance, are you referring to, like multiple communities and they kind of share a maintenance group that kind of roves between a couple communities?
Yeah. So the way we looked at it is we had a goal we didn't want our technicians traveling more than, 10 miles within 5 minutes. So I was able to, the nice thing for Oklahoma City was we have a south group. We have 4 properties within 3 miles of each other. Our downtown market has 3 properties within 2 miles of each other. And our north pod, we have 4 properties and both of them share fences with others' properties. And they're, a mile apart. So the goal was team those guys up because we might have somebody at one of our properties that's really strong in HVAC, but the other property doesn't. So now we can utilize that skill set across that entire portfolio or that entire pod. And same goes for appliances and stuff. So really just trying to match team members up with what they excel at, what they're good at, what they like to do, because then it's going to make them happy. And then we even look at it as it's giving a better customer service to the resident, because if I'm sending a jack of all trades that might not be really good at appliances to go fix a refrigerator, it might take them 2 or 3 times to fix that, that refrigerator. Well, I can send somebody that excels at appliances, likes to do appliances, to fix it right the first time, thus now reducing our callbacks and our customer service complaints and just improving that customer relationship and stuff. So that's kind of our goal behind it. As well as essentially being able to flood our properties. We did split up our maintenance house. So we do have maintenance technicians and service technicians. And so that way we can move around our make-ready guys to help facilitate make-readies to get them turned faster. And we've seen a real positive influence on our smaller properties, our small two-man properties. Their turn times have been almost cut in half because, at least for our region, we have a bulk of our move-outs happen from the 25th to the 4th, so we have 30-40% or 30-40 units out of 50 moving out in that time frame. And so for our smaller properties that might only have 7 or 8 move-outs for the month, 5 of them are happening in that first 5 days. So it's increasing our turn times because we can only turn so many of them in a given week and stuff, especially with size of the units being townhomes, full paints, things like that. So that was kind of our goal with dispatch, was to help reduce those turn times. So
Great.
Josh, I'd like for you to dive a little deeper into painting this whole picture of how everything is organized, right? So we could better understand. And how do you schedule the teams? Are they assigned to, one property per day? Are they traveling throughout the day? All those details, like the insights, because what I'm learning is that each company, well, not each company, but several companies are trying some sort of a centralization type of thing to increase efficiency, but they're not two identical ones. Like everybody is doing it differently. So I think it'll be important for all of us here to just kind of better understand, right? So just help us understand the whole structure as much as you could share. I think it'll be very important, like a great experience for us to hear from you. How do you make it work, really?
So we actually, our Alaska region, they got this dumped on them during budget seasons in 2022, and was basically like, hey, we want you guys to figure out how you guys can reduce your turn time. So our leadership team was like, they had a vision and they just basically let them go with it. And so they did it for about 5 months. I went up there to visit them. One of the things I noticed was they had an area director who manages multiple properties. They were in charge of everything. And so my first takeaway was that needs to be a maintenance associate. So that was our first kickoff. And one of the first things that I changed was, and it helped lead our maintenance over maintenance initiative. So now we identified and promoted our senior service managers into an area service manager. So now the area service manager has their pod and they are basically over top of that pod. So now they can move the team members around as they see fit. And then we have a service manager, which is over service side doing work orders, and a maintenance manager over the make readies doing, on that side. And so our area service manager is looking at all lease expirations for the entire month. And he's going to the maintenance manager and saying, hey, here's your group of 15 units, 20 units that you need to get turned this week. You schedule the guys out and schedule the vendors out. So then now that maintenance manager is looking at everything, moving the team around. And usually they'll spend a day at a property. So our maintenance technicians aren't doing a turn and then going to another property. They'll just stay on that property for the entire day. And then they get that work done, and then he'll schedule out the vendors as he's moving along to get the turn times down faster. On the service side, service manager is doing the same thing. They're looking at their bulk work order load, and each property at least has one service technician stationed there daily for any emergencies that come up. So that was one of the big things that we changed. And so they're assigning those work orders out. And so really, even on those service members, they're not moving around as much unless their expertise is needed at another property.
I have a question here. Is it the same person? Like it's an employee of the property, or that person calls the shots and they say, Jimmy, like you're going to be at this property today, right? You're going to be that permanent person, or is it someone that actually belongs to the property? They don't rotate. That person that's going to be there for the entire day.
We try and keep the same person there consistently over and over, weeks at a time, months at a time. So then that way they keep that property, that property knowledge as well too. So then that way, because that was one of the big struggles, was getting all the other team members familiarized with where the shutoffs are at and the nuances with the property. So we actually, so we have one person stationed permanently pretty much there at each property.
How long you've been running the program now?
We will hit 1 year in Oklahoma City next week. So it was a pretty quick process for us. I went to Alaska around Memorial Day weekend. Our CFO asked me if I wanted to try it out in my region, and I like to do things differently and stuff. So I kind of put everything in motion within a month. We kicked it off. I had a meeting with everybody July 7th of last year, and July 9th, we rolled into dispatch maintenance in 10 of our properties in Oklahoma City. So
fantastic. What would you say are the main the main challenges that you're still having with the program, and also what's some positive impact that you've seen already when the year that you've been running the program?
The biggest is the mentality. The team members, they get used to it's my property. So now it's not my property, it's my pod. So really just having that buy-in to say now you have 3 properties or 4 properties that you're a part of, not just one. That was definitely the biggest struggle at the start. CDs, our community directors, they always think, what's going on at their property is the most important thing at that point in time. So they might have a smaller emergency or something that they might think is an emergency. We're trying to handle emergency at another property, and they want to know why their emergency is not, being taken care of right now. So I would say that going from a single mindset to a group mindset for the properties and stuff.
Are those 2 separate entities? Like one is like one structure that handles make readies, one that handles service requests, or is it just the same and different people specialize in different things?
What was that?
So the centralized structure, is it like one chain of command, or is it like 2 separate ones? You have people in charge with just make readies. It's a structure versus second structure service requests, or is it just like one person and you have within the structure people specialized that do make readies versus people that do service requests?
So we have our area service manager, which I pretty much call them, they're the coach of the football team. And then we have our maintenance manager, they're the quarterback, and then they're over the make ready side. And then we have our maintenance technicians. That's going to be basically your running backs, linebackers, things like that, or running backs, receivers, linemen. Then you have your service manager, he's our linebacker, he's the head of the service department, and then we have our service technicians, whether they're experienced in HVAC, appliances, electrical, and then they're running the work order. So we have split the 2 sides of the house, and then they all report to either their maintenance manager or their service manager, and then it funnels up to the area service manager.
Cool. I want to open it up for questions, other questions for Josh. I think he's running a incredibly interesting experiment out there.
I don't know if James or Scott, if you guys had anything. No.
Now, I'd like to go over then and say and ask the rest of you, what's your experience with any type of centralization currently? What do you see in the future? What is your company planning to do in the future? So, Jason, I'll give you the floor for sharing with us.
Sure. I am a big fan of it. I remember there being properties. I had these 2 communities back with a different company, and they were less than half a mile apart from each other. And they were both 150 units. So you know how those properties are staffed, right? It's like a supervisor and a technician, and that's it. And so, the technician goes out sick or goes on vacation, and then it's just a supervisor by themselves. Or if we lose a supervisor, now it's just the technician all by themselves. And it was just, I felt like that property was just struggling to do anything, struggling to do PMs, so guess what? PMs weren't getting done and things weren't getting touched. They were just keeping the tickets down, and they were taking care of the move-ins that were happening. And so my building was starting to fall apart. And that's when that was a long time ago. This story was a long time ago. So that's when I realized, why do we have these 2 properties? They're right down the street from each other, and they're not sharing resources. Why don't we combine the 2? And I fought and I tried so hard, and finally we were able to combine the 2. And then it opened up so many more possibilities, right? It opened up the opportunity for us to be able to say, you know what? Now I've got 4 people doing 300 units total, And I can be able to say, you know what, this one guy is just going to do PMs all month long for both properties. They're going to start at the top of this building. We're going to do all the PMs. They're not going to do tickets. They're not going to do turns. They're not going to do anything else. They're just going to go in every single apartment. And they're just going to push a cart and they're going to take care of the PMs. Now, maybe we could swap it up, right? I know sometimes maintenance guys might say, you know, oh, I don't want to do PMs all day long, for a whole month long. Sure, okay, so then maybe we just swap out that position and people get an opportunity to get a break from tickets and turns. I don't know. Sometimes guys love just doing PM work and just walking around. So you got to look at your team, but that's a huge it's a miss if you're not combining properties together. And when I was at Camden recently, they started bundling properties together and doing the potted maintenance, like, you know, Josh, you're talking about, and it was amazing. Now, one of the biggest hurdles, and if anybody's listening or watching the podcast, I think the biggest hurdle to getting it done is the fear and the anxiety that some of the maintenance employees on site have. They're the most resistant to it, which didn't make sense to me. You know, they were just like, well, I work hard on my property and there's not a lot of tickets and issues here. And you're potting me with a property that has a lot of issues and they haven't been taking care of their property. So that was a challenge to kind of get over. But you know what? Once we got them in and we said, give us a month, give us 30 days. And that's my biggest tip. Talk to your maintenance teams and tell them, hey, try it for 30 days. Okay. Don't keep pushing back and saying no, 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 no. Like, let's just try it out for 30 days and see how it works. And you might find that it's a lot easier. The next piece that I enjoyed was the on-call part. I mean, I don't know you guys, man. When I was a maintenance tech, I hated being on call. I was at a property and it was myself and a technician, and we shared on call, and it was 1 week on, 1 week off, right? So it was like every other week I was on call. Now, if you came to me and said, hey, let's pod maintenance with this other community, let's do some on-call stuff. Now you're on call for 1 week and then you're off for 6. That's amazing. It's quality of life, right? And I think one of the struggles there, and I think a lot of people get nervous about it, they're like, well, no, I'm on call for 2 properties. And it's like, okay, well, it's actually just, you're just doing triage. You're just doing triage. You just stop the bleeding, right? If it's not your home property that you're used to, just stop the bleeding. Go shut the water off, right? Get the remediation company and call the supervisor that's at that property and have them come over, and, you know, you can figure it out. Give them a temp unit, right? Give them a temp AC unit for the night, and then let them know, hey, when you guys come in the morning, you got to take care of this AC that's in this apartment. Like, that's the thing. But now all of a sudden I got 6 weeks off of on call. And that's the thing I think is plaguing a lot of companies, is maintenance employees don't want to be on call. And I don't know how you can get them off call. I've been trying to, if anybody wants, we want to talk about that next.
We could talk about it.
Yeah,
we could talk about it now. If there's any ideas of how to make it like, hey.
I find it very difficult. I've been pondering on it. We were in group meetings at Camden. We're talking about it at Dominium. It's like, how can you get away from on call? I can't figure it out without expenses going through the roof. You can make it happen, right? You can make it happen. I could say, oh, this is my plumber, this is my electrician. I'm going to pay him a fee to answer the phone late at night. I got a call center. Call center is going to just dispatch a plumber. That just sounds really expensive, right? And then here's the other piece. I'm just flowing into this next conversation, man. You guys got my blood going, my juices going, right? All of a sudden, if we have this maintenance on call piece, and that's great. It'll help with the maintenance teams, but the expenses will go through the roof. And then if the vendor gets on site late at night and they can't get access, they can't get to the boiler room, and they can't get to the electric room, right, to be able to stop the problem, who are they calling? They're calling the maintenance teams. Now you're coming back, right? So now I'm paying for a vendor, and I'm paying for the maintenance employees too. So it's tough. It's such a tough one. I'd love to hear if anybody's already started the whole, no on-call maintenance for, at their company. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. So tell us about what you do for centralization here at your current place. What initiatives you have in place? What are you envisioning for the future?
We're gonna just for centralization. I think right now I'm gonna look at potting the properties, like get them together. When I was visiting properties in a market a couple weeks ago, And I had one property, it was 100 units, it had a technician. I had another property down the road, it had one property, it had one technician. There was 100 units, right? So I had like 3 properties, they were all 100 units, and they all had a technician, and there was deferred maintenance. And I was like, guys, we gotta combine efforts. We have to. And so right now I'm talking with the regional manager in that market, I'm talking to the regional vice president, and I'm saying, listen, if we have attrition, we have time, if we have turnover, like that's a great opportunity for us to hit pause, time out, and say, hey, let's put a supervisor at this property, maybe. And then that supervisor can take care of those other 2 guys, and maybe we can pod the 3. And now all of a sudden we can float around and we can take care of all the maintenance, and we have more resources now. And then we can be able to make sure that we're cleaning the gutters or checking the storm drains. We got a hurricane coming in the next week, right? I can only imagine like how many storm drains are covered up right now, and they need to get out there. They need to like clean it up. But I'm getting like, oh, I got a lot of tickets and turns, right? Potted maintenance. If you have centralized maintenance, maybe we can say, hey, listen, these 2 guys, you just go to all the properties and check out storm drains and make sure that, you know, doors have sandbags in front of them, and right, that's our opportunity. So I'll open it up right there because I can keep going, but I want to leave room for you guys to talk. And James, I think I've seen you come off mute a couple times. Please.
Josh, you got something to say?
I was just gonna kind of, agree with the on-call situation. I mean, that was another struggle that we had, especially in our downtown market, was, we had 2 properties that only had 2 guys on call. So I'm like, you're on call every 26 weeks.
Yeah.
And then everybody was complaining about taking on call for other properties. I'm like, okay, you can either do 6 hours in a week and be off call for 7 weeks, or you can go on call every other week and get 1 or 2 calls every other week. So I'm just like, I don't understand what the big issue was. Like some of my technicians, and just the way they look at things, they look at it on such a small scale. They're not able to look at it at that bigger scale. I go, would you rather be on call 26 weeks out of the year or 8 weeks out of the year? Would you rather be on call every other week or every 3rd week or every 6 or 7 weeks? Like that. It was a mentality, and like our downtown market doesn't get a lot of on calls. They get, I think our busiest time was 6 hours, 8 hours, and that was Memorial Day weekend. And we had 4 calls on Memorial Day itself. So I'm like, there's 4 hours that if we didn't have Memorial Day weekend there, somebody would have been there to get it fixed or take care of it and stuff. So it is weird how some of the technicians think at such a smaller level. Oh, now I gotta do 3 properties versus 1. Yeah, but you're not seeing the other benefits and stuff. So
Yeah.
Scott, I want to give you the floor and ask you to share some thoughts from your clients, or companies that you're working with. What are some things that are happening from a centralization standpoint, which we opened a conversation with today, and also what do they do? What are some great things that they do for on call, if you know of, that you could share with us here?
Sure. As I said, I used to work in corporate America. I worked for 7 companies over 33 and a half years, rising through the ranks, serving as VP of facilities, capital planning, and construction for the last 3. What I advise my clients to do is to perform a holistic analysis of their portfolio. I'm working with a company right now that has both owned properties and third-party managed properties, and therein lies the rub. For companies that are only handling their own properties that are owned by a central entity ownership situation, that works fine. There's usually never any pushback. People can definitely work in the pod mentality, as has been mentioned. But when you've got clients that say, no, you're not taking my maintenance guy to do that. He works for our property. We need him available for our work. That's part of the confusion. But as I've shared with many of these folks along the way, I'm like, well, I can appreciate that mindset. I don't necessarily agree with it based on my years of experience. Here's what I'm going to say. When the proverbial stuff hits the fan with you, where are you going to turn? Who are you going to call? If you're working in this, we are a team versus I am an entity mentality, then what you can do is you can really shine. What I did at a company that had both, again, for third party and owned properties, is I created what was known as a PST, a priority service team. And every property included a portion of the overall salary for these 4 technicians to go out to properties on an assignment basis based on priority. And that was its own separate budgeted line item in the salary. You know, it said PST and an amount, whatever the amount. It didn't say John, Jack, Mike, and Peter. It just said PST and the amount. And we took the average of all of the salaries, we amortized it over the course of a year, we affixed the 38% overhead and benefits. We came up with a number, and then when people called up and needed some priority assistance, there was a team ready to roll at all times. Now, they had full-time jobs at other properties, but when this happened, all of the payroll allocations rolled up into that property. So the owners weren't getting, you know, I'm getting Adrian's property, I'm getting Jason's property budget. No, I'm only getting what's actually being responded to in my budget, but I allocated that amount and it's there as a cushion. And if we don't use it, that's great. You don't abuse it either. And I found that we improved our overall efficiency by over 40% during the first year for this company. And again, I'm working in the metro Chicago area. And we proved that it was also helpful that if somebody was on call, and let's say they lived a little bit of a distance away, I tried not to assign anybody who lived more than 20 miles away. But if they did, they had an option to go to the site. And, you know, if they're on that weekend call cycle, let them do some of their hours there for the site. Let them do some of the projects at the site and start chipping away at the backlog. And, you know, that too lent itself to, okay, well, I'm not just on call for the weekend. I'm also helping to turn a unit. I'm going to be dealing with the PM on the HVAC system. I'm going to handle all of these other smaller tasks. Then the owner of that property and the team associated with it get to see the core benefits of having some dedicated manpower that is there to do one job, but is actually doing others. And all of a sudden, you'll see your backlog of work orders start to come down. Now, it doesn't work in every environment. I'll be the first one to admit that. But if you have the geographical capabilities of creating these teams, these pod teams, then I would say, you know, show the return on investment to everybody, because the biggest pushback might be the ownership entities, or as Jason said, some of the biggest pushback can be the staffing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't feel, well, why should I go bail, you know, Joshua out because, you know, he's been, you know, doing a, you know, adequate job at his property, but I do an exceptional job at mine. Why are we going to do that? Well, because like Vince Lombardi said, there is no second place. And together we all achieve more. So, you know, instill that coaching, mentoring, and you know, collegial mentality in your teams. And I think you're going to see that it pays dividends big time.
James, oh, sorry. Any questions for Scott?
Nope.
No.
No, that was good. That was good. I like that.
James, share with us what do you do, what Avenue 5 does for centralization in maintenance, and then share some things with us about on-call. How do you guys handle on-call? What are maybe some things that others could, you know, learn from your on-call policy, your procedures? Maybe something that is really good that works out well.
Yeah, absolutely. Centralization for Avenue 5 blanketed across the company. We're third-party management, so it's kind of hard to blanket things, but getting buy-in from all ownership groups into the Happy Property platform to centralize with the vision of potting smaller properties or properties together with essentially like a mini regional, if you will, and that could be the carrot we dangle for those people to incentivize them to get into that position. With that, it's, you know, it starts with on-call, and then we also have service requests. They sync with Yardi, and then make readies. So our move out inspection is on Happy Property, and that auto generates your turn board and then initiates tasks, which are essentially service requests inside of that unit to make the make ready better and hold people accountable. and then timeframes and stuff, and then the vision moving forward to decrease some of the on-call and then to decrease some of the smaller service requests that residents could take care of on their own is going to be Happy Force, which is a technician at a call center that can walk someone through resetting a garbage disposal or changing batteries for a smoke detector, all those little things that come in after hours, even during the day, I believe will be the vision moving forward to mitigate some of those little things and help decrease that workload for the site teams. It's a little hard. We're now the 8th largest management company in the nation, so each region runs a little bit different, spread out a little bit different priorities. I mean, you guys talk HVAC, we don't have air conditioning in Seattle. So like there's a lot of nuance to the different areas, technical skills, whether that's with your hands or with computers. There's usually a disconnect for that, for the people who are really good with their hands aren't necessarily great at computers and stuff like that. So new technology can have a little bit of resistance on the back end. So I've heard it said already on this call, I think big time is coaching, leadership, and then creating that buy-in, and then using strengths, and then building opportunities for people, right? Individualized training if you have the time to get out and get in front of those people. In the pod mentality, Seattle is very condensed. So from like SeaTac to Shoreline, Seattle's entire downtown sector can fit in there. We're about 10 miles to 15 miles apart there. That's the concentration of 40 properties and over 7,000 units that I get to work with. In that, there's specific neighborhoods. For example, Shoreline right now, it's just outside the city. We have 4 new lease ups, and we have 4 existing conventional properties already there. They're all in my portfolio. So the vision is, with my monthly maintenance supervisor meetings, to get those supervisors to talk to each other, to create team ownership between each other, so that in a pinch they can lean on each other. They don't even have to go through me. They can just call each other. I like to empower my teammates to do that, and kind of give them, I think we all try and get to a point where there's autonomy in our life, where we're trusted for the skills that we have, and people believe in what we do, so we can take that and use that as motivation for people to, create those connections and support each other. So that is my vision for potting, in a sense. We also, I oversee a maintenance floating team, so kind of like a priority team. But they don't have a home property. Everything that they work, wherever they go, their time is allocated to that site, and that runs through me, and then I create their schedules, whether that's an assistant or a supervisor. I like to get like a supervisor who is a top performer, who could do a regional job like what most people try and get to, and give them the incentive of not necessarily having an emergency phone, and then helping them build their connections so they can be out and supporting and bring that information back to me, whether it's a teammate that's disgruntled or a property manager that's power drunk and running their team wrong or something like that. Whatever that is, try and get that feedback, but also have them as an asset to go out, build that team, and then take care of the big priorities. And then on call, I mean, luckily I oversaw 3 properties in the downtown sector and was on call for almost 3 years by myself. So I don't know what the answer is for that. A lot of leadership on the operation side is like, well, you signed up for it, just do it, right? And that's not the proper mentality, because sometimes there is a divide in respect between operations and maintenance. I don't necessarily have a solution for it. I like what Jason was saying, but we all know that bottom line is dollar signs. I think the vision of centralization is to decrease labor force, to increase profit margins, which ownership groups, I'm not sure necessarily understand the amount of work that goes into a maintenance job. Starting with customer service and then building your skill sets and then PM and everything in between. It is a it's a job that takes a lot of knowledge about, or a little bit of knowledge about everything, and then the solution based mindset to be able to navigate those situations. So I go to regionals and operators to push their clients to have more respect for our teammates. And then hopefully we get higher level people, which creates less issues and can save money over time. But yeah, when it comes to like what I was talking about, Shoreline or Queen Anne or downtown or Capitol Hill or wherever the neighborhood is, creating that camaraderie between those teammates, encouraging them to do, team outings together, maybe link up for lunch and have the property pay for it, something like that, or do a centralized lunch at one property and you guys can do a tour, maybe bring in a supplier, go through the mechanical system, show different levels of boilers and stuff like that so they can get that sense of learning together and then eat. Like that's a big thing that maintenance people love. I think everybody does, but yeah, I think there's a lot of ways we attack it. For us specifically at Avenue 5 on the maintenance side, getting the buy-in from ownership groups to have more respect for the position and understanding, maybe educating them on what it takes to find the right person. So that's what I got.
You mentioned a floating team that you're overseeing. How many people?
Right now it's 2. The vision is find a high performer, get them on the floating team, put them places to get them to build their brand within the organization. And if their vision is, I want the next high-rise lease up because it's going to have the highest pay, the least amount of labor and the highest bonus structure, probably the least amount of on-calls. Like if that's your vision, come to the floating team, build your brand. And then if an opening comes up, you kind of get pushed to the top of the list, especially if everyone has your name in their mouth. If they're talking about you, you have more opportunity to do that. Or if it's a tech who's great at turns, and they love doing that, and we can send them out and they're incentivized to not have the emergency phone, then that's another, feather in our hat. But, maybe building them up. Specifically right now, I have 2. We have a gentleman named Ethan, who was a runner-up to our newest regional maintenance role that was opened up. He wanted to get into something more along the lines of what his vision is to help. He's been in the industry 25 years. He's great at everything, but he just got beat out by somebody else who was with the company for longer. So kind of dangling that carrot and allowing him to have some autonomy and build those relationships and go where he needs to go with some flexibility that he owns and then finds, satisfaction in. And then another one who's an assistant maintenance, younger cat, came up in a renovation family. He's really good at basically everything. He does all. He was with a supervisor who was in the industry for 20 years and did all of his admin work for him because he could touch type and the other guy couldn't. So it's like now I'm positioning him to take over a single site as a supervisor. So also building that bench and trying to uplift people to where they want to be, right? And then cycling back in, I'm going to have to start recruiting again.
Any challenge billing back your clients since you're doing third-party management when it comes to allocating these 2 resources, these 2 gentlemen, to various assets? Do you have any pushback?
It's usually property managers or regionals, and I assume that's something that they're a little sensitive to because that affects their bonus structure. But also, if you're without and you want me to send Ethan there, Ethan is a top performer. He's been with the company for years. Everyone knows him and loves him, and he's $45 an hour, right? You bring in a temp, you'll be paying a temp $60 an hour here, and they could have been homeless yesterday, and they just got a polo and showed up at your property.
Oh.
That's literally happened for us. So, you know, when you're talking to an ownership group, do you want high quality performance? Do you want your property ran right? Like, or do you want it to just sit and be deferred, right? So, and that's, I communicate that to the regionals and let them have those conversations with clients. Nice to meet you, Scott.
See you, Scott.
Scott,
Have a good trip.
thank you. I was about to ask you a question, but if you gotta go, by all means.
No, that's okay, Adrian. Yeah, we've got a 3-hour drive out to the mountains to see James Taylor, so I got to leave now. But great spending time with you guys. You know, have a great, safe, happy holiday, weekend if you're taking the extra day.
As a final thought, before I wish you an amazing 4th of July, what are some topics besides training? I know that this is what you do, what you're mainly passionate about. But what are some top topics, top of mind for you that you would like to see discussed in next meetings, future meetings?
Well, as you and I both know, Adrian, we were both in Philadelphia together. There seems to be a lot of push right now for additional safety programming. It's always been something that's talked about, but Chris Karamanica and myself and others, spend a lot of time in that area. And I really think that this group probably has combined, well over 100 years of experience that we can bring back to even smaller groups. A lot of, based on what I heard from Satisfax, almost 50% of our industry has transitioned in the past 5 years. So we've got people who don't have that depth and level of experience that we've had, eating the dirt and chomping on the mud over the years. So if we can bring something back to the newer members of our global teams, I think it'll be great.
We appreciate you, Scott. Have an amazing holiday. I hope to see you in 3 weeks from now.
All right, you certainly will. Take care, guys.
You too.
Good one.
Gentlemen, we have about 7 minutes left. I like to use them for open thoughts, open ideas. What would you like to see in the next in our next meetings, like as far as topics?
I got one. How about incentivizing new recruits, right? Like Scott was just saying, how do we get people who are skill-based trained or willing to be trained in skill-based industry to come to ours? I don't know about y'all. I'm assuming, Jason, you're in Florida.
Houston.
Oh, okay. Golf. Yeah. The tan. I guess the South. We don't get the sun here. So, for us in Seattle, we could get a tech starting at maybe $25 an hour, but you could go start at McDonald's at $31 an hour. Mm-hmm. So you don't have an emergency phone there, and McDonald's ain't going out of business. So how do we find people who want to get into the industry and grow if you know that, and you get into the elevator union and you're making $100 an hour, or you're an electrician and your base is as an apprentice is higher than that of some of our supervisors, right? So what do we do?
That's good. That's a good topic.
That's a very good one. Jason, what would be some important topics for you to see the being part of the conversation next time around?
I would like to dive more into specific things that property management companies can do to try to alleviate the on-call burden. I've had, I think that's what we're trying to do here with this group, right? Is to be able to get our knowledge and to be able to get like takeaways that people can grab and say, you know what, we're going to try that here. And that'd be amazing to be able to say that this group did that. So I would like to see us kind of go through the list and come up with if you do this and this and this, it alleviates the amount of hours that they have to spend on call, whatever. And that would be really cool to talk about. Yeah, that's my one. So I'll give you
Nice.
now.
How about you, Josh?
I'd like to see, figure out a way to help out the younger generation coming up. Those service technicians wanting to be maintenance supervisors, those maintenance supervisors wanting to move up to service manager, regional level. What do they need to do? Kind of what's, would, I think, help paint a career path for them and stuff.
Cool. I like that.
Yeah, I think that I have a couple of ideas for how we could help out, right? And I'm willing to put my platform at your disposal to do that. So one of the ways, and I've asked other leaders too, is for you to send me site level employees that I could interview them on a podcast. Talking about brand building, I could really help them get their name out there, make them superstars, from the long form interview to chop it down into short form contents. You all three of you were on my podcast, so you kind of know how we do things, and we've been making changes, like improvements lately. So we do a lot more content from each episode. So I'd love for you to send them my way, so I could take time to interview. And another way that I think that will be very helpful for them is to handpick a few, and we could actually have them as guests to our conversations, to watch the conversations live, and also I like for them to give their feedback too. I think it's very important that when you have that 30,000 feet up type of perspective, it's important to see how the ground level perception is on those issues. I think it helps us keep level headed, and also understand that, hey, this is here, this is down here. How do we how do we come up with the best solution so everybody's happy? Or maybe how do we present our solutions better than people at a site level embrace them, and they we get that buy-in? Because I think that's also one of the big challenges that we have as an industry. People just it's hard to get the buy-in. Josh, I mean, you're all mentioning right here, when we first started this centralization, the first thing is pushback, right? Because people don't tend to embrace change too well, right? They're conservative, like this is what they're used to. Even if it benefits them, they're fine in it until we find that way to get a buy-in, right? That the way you deliver it to them, Josh, right? Instead being 26 weeks in a year, it could be 6, 7, 10 weeks in a year. It's going to be a little more intense, but you got a lot more time for yourself, for your family. So yeah, all great ideas, gentlemen, all great topics. I wish you an amazing 4th of July. I hope to see you all and many others in 3 weeks. And if you have any peers or any of your direct reports, like Jason, I'm assuming you have some directors, right? The direct reports, they're more than welcome. Send me their information, or do an intro message or intro email. I would love to bring them into the mix right here. The more we expand this group, the better it's gonna be, right? Because we could have on every single meeting, we could have 10, 15 people to keep these conversations going and keep bring new ideas to the table. I think that's what's gonna make this very successful. Any final thoughts on how we should run these meetings going forward? Like I said, I don't want for me to be just like, this is Adrian's meeting, it's everybody's meeting. Do you all have any thoughts of what can we do in the future different than what we've been doing?
I think that you can put out the email to the group, right? And then just put it out there and say, hey, here's some topics. Does anybody feel passionate about any of these? And then if somebody grabs it and says, oh man, I feel really good about this, we've got some good experience, then you right there in the email, just tell them, hey, I'll introduce you, and then you kick off the topic, and then we'll do it that way. That's my thoughts.
Sure.
I would agree too, to say, that way coming into the meeting, we know what the topic's about. So if it's going to be about centralization and I'm going to talk about it, then if there's another 100 people on that email that want to know more about it, then they'll more than likely, join that. If centralization is not in their plan, then they won't, they don't have to come and stuff. So I think that way too might get a little bit more
Specific.
audience attendance if they kind of know what's coming up and what's going to be discussed during the meeting.
That totally makes sense. I love that. How about you, James? Any thoughts?
I think the way that you create a space for everyone to have a voice and make sure that everyone's opinion is heard and important. I think that's something that you're doing well and should continue. So that's my feedback.
I appreciate you, gentlemen. I appreciate you very much. Thank you. Have an amazing 4th of July. I hope to see you in 3 weeks, and I promise to take all of your ideas, synthesize, and send a blast email to the entire group to see if we have any volunteers, if we're bringing more exciting into the mix out here.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Stay safe, everybody.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.